we go. This good evening. It's good to be on the same side of the globe as my guest. So I'm streaming live from Haifa in Israel, in the north of Israel. And Melissa is in which part of the UK are you?
I'm in London.
London. Okay. So you're in the city.
I'm in the city, yeah.
So Melissa, I'm Dr. Tovah Goldfine. This is TMS Roundtable. I get like right into it. TMS Roundtable Global. We go live almost each week for the last, it'll be almost 4 years this coming March. And we have been meeting amazing doctors and therapists and health professionals and authors and movie directors and people that have healed everything from MS to arthritis to chronic pain to all types of anxiety and different emotional issues. And I am one blessed human being, but enough about me. So this is unusual for me to be sitting with somebody who I have worked with. But it was such an amazing healing story, and how it developed and unfolded is even more amazing. And like I say, you can heal too. Melissa is not special. You are special, but this is what the mind-body connection and the art and science of using the brain to help us heal, and the knowledge that we are intimately connected, the mind and body, and how we can heal from real physical pain that's being caused by more of an emotional threat or problem. So I'm thrilled to be with you and talk about brave. Thank you, Melissa, for blessing my studio. So Melissa is a lawyer, so you're in the professional world and living a fast speed life, like when you go to work, which I know sometimes you get triggered there. But I met you, let's start from there, because I met you not in the typical mind-body world, but you were on, I think I was advertising the broadcast with Michael Hodge, who healed some pelvic pain in a male, which does exist. And we had a great show. And I think I was advertising it like a little bit in some of the pelvic Facebook pages, was I really try to reach out to people who don't connect the mind and body, because there are people like you, and this is where I'm going to and have you start. You saw something and reached out. Start from there.
Yeah, my story is quite long, so apologies to everybody. But
we're comfortable. Details. We want details.
Yeah. So in about August last year, I started getting pelvic pain. And when I look back, it was like the most stressful time in my life. Like I could do my wedding all over again with my eyes shut. You know,
I mean, like it was like there was nothing that could match this. Was it around your wedding? No, it wasn't around your wedding?
No, I've been married for quite some time. It was just that I guess it was a cumulative effect of things. We'd just had 2 years of lockdown in Australia, in Melbourne. I was in Melbourne, everyone knows, one of the longest and hardest lockdown cities in the world.
Wow.
And we came out of lockdown, and my husband and I were literally, the Prime Minister, opened up the international borders, and we booked our flights straight away for London for a month for a break, but also to make a decision about, are we going to move here or are we not? What are we doing? And we came for a month and we had a great time, and we were like, yes, this is what we want to do. We want to move here. So then therein started like 8 months of really stressful times. You're both trying to find jobs. You're trying to pack up a house and move and try and find somewhere to live, and you're closing out things.
Positive stress, but transition.
Yeah, and a lot of uncertainties. I was getting an internal transfer with my job, and like 1 minute I'd like interviewed, and then it was like 4 or 5 months later that I finally got an offer. There was lots of uncertainty, and I don't cope well with uncertainty, so it was very anxiety inducing. And also what was happening was like Australia was kind of going offline as the UK was going on. So you're kind of waking up in the middle of the night and checking your emails to see like all of the things that I've actioned in the morning, are they now being actioned in my evening? And then our dog passed away, which was really heartbreaking, like one of the most difficult things I've ever gone through. So it was like, I'm grieving.
I've heard that about people when their animals and their like best friends pass, and it's the animal. It's like
it broke me.
A major trigger, a major like the sadness, and it's not like we can express sadness for an animal. I'm like, this is something very interesting to say. So your dog passed away at that time as well.
Oh, we're going through all of this stress, and she was our baby. It literally broke us. Like, it was so awful. And then you're going through, so you're kind of like almost going through the motions to move. And then in the last week of like, I'll never forget, we left our house the last day of like our living in the house, and I cried all the way we were staying with a friend, and I cried the whole way there. And it was just like, the emotions, I just had like held it together to that point. And then, 3 or 4 days later, then we were then in the UK. And then 2 weeks after that, I started getting pelvic pain. And initially I thought it was a UTI because it was those kinds of symptoms. And I was like, oh, that's fine. I'll just get some antibiotics, and got that. And then
you never had any kind of pelvic pain before?
No, not really. I've had UTIs before, but nothing like this. And I just thought, okay, and it kind of went away, but didn't. And I thought, this is odd. And then it just intensified, and it intensified, and it intensified. And I went to the GP, and the GP's like, oh, maybe you've got endometriosis. And I was like, this doesn't make sense, because in Australia I was having regular pelvic scans. My gynecologist was all about doing that to make sure that I was on the right contraceptive medication, and just, with age and whatever, she was just making sure. So I was like, that, to me, it just would be, and I'd had one 6 months prior. You would think that it would have, endometriosis is not something that you just get overnight. It's something that you got.
Right.
So I thought this was very odd. And it wasn't until I was lying in bed one night, and it was so bad. The pain was so bad. And I just started Googling. I was like, this is just not. And I came across this page, and it said, it was an NHS page for Pudendal neuralgia. And I read all of the symptoms, and I ticked all of the boxes. And I was like, oh my God, I've worked it out. So I went back to the doctor on the Monday and was like, took her in my phone and was like, this is what I've got. And I had to convince her.
So you went to the page and figured out that, like, it was Pudendal neuralgia, that page?
Yeah.
Okay, so you went to the doctor. It's a new doctor. Again, you're in England for a few months.
Like, few months. And so this is like my second time I've seen her, because the first time she thought I had endometriosis and was wanting to do all these little swabs and scans and whatever have you. And I was like, this is what it is. And I had to like almost beg for a referral for an MRI and to see the physiotherapist. Like, beg. It was really, really bad. And so I go off and I have my MRI, and they only scanned my lump. So, you have to wait however many months. They only scanned my lumbar spine. So then I have to go back. I had then wait to get my appointment for my results.
This whole time you're having sensations.
Epic pain. Really, really, really bad pain. And I'm stressed. I'm worried about it, because it's in a sensitive area. It's not making sense. Like, because I thought maybe if I injured myself at the gym, I mean, I was always doing that. I've always put my back out at the gym. So I thought maybe it's the gym. I don't know. Just, something doesn't feel right. And so then they're like, oh no, we now need to send you for a pelvic MRI. I'm like, okay. And MRIs, I'm claustrophobic. So I was just like, I'd psyched myself up for the first one. Now I have to do it again. So I have the second one.
This time were you taking like pain medication? You were just trying to like calm the pain down? Was anything calming it down?
The doctor did give me gabapentin, and I took it. And she even then was so reluctant to give me the gabapentin, and she scared me. She was like, it's a really addictive medication, blah, 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 blah. And it scared me. I was just like, oh, okay. Like, so I didn't want to take it. And it wasn't until it got really bad one night, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll just take it. Just take it. And I had the worst experience. I kept waking up. It felt like I was drunk in the middle of the night. Like, I was so dizzy. And the next morning I had a migraine. It was the worst. I was like, well, I'm not doing that again. I can't stand the side effects. This isn't working. It numbed the pain. It brought the pain right down, but it was not worth, to me, it wasn't, to me personally, it was not worth the after effects.
Yeah.
And so I had my pelvic MRI, which again, this is the thing, it came back clear. The lumbar spine did find some things. I think it was like a disc bulge or something. And I was like, okay,
we all have it.
Yeah, exactly. And then I had to so I saw the gynecologist, and the gynecologist was like, I'm going to refer you to the pain clinic because structurally there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing I can do for you. And I went,
so what were you thinking now? Like, I'm just angry. I'm just freaking out. Like, what is this?
Dismissed. Every single time I went to a doctor, I felt like I had to advocate for myself. And I felt really sorry for the people that don't know how to advocate for themselves. And I had to advocate, I had to push, which is also not really in my nature. Like, I'm not a very aggressive, despite being a lawyer, I'm not an aggressive lawyer. I'm not an aggressive person. So I was just like, this is really pushing me to be someone I'm not.
Sure, which was added stress to your system.
And because I felt like, because also there was like lots of issues with like the referrals going missing, and the GP's like, but I sent the referral, and the companies and the MRI place is like, well, we haven't got it. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do here? Like, if you won't give me, because also like I'm navigating a new healthcare system, something I'm not used to. In Australia, if you have to go for an MRI, they print the referral and they hand it to you, and it's your responsibility to go and book it and whatever have you. No, here I'm dealing with the system where they all kind of manage it and they have control, and that's hard for me. I'm giving up my control.
It's just something giving up control. This is a biggie, so let's remember that. So you get the tests come back negative. The medicine doesn't work. You're managing, but basically, did you notice your pain like would come and go, or was it consistent? So you were able to like notice that it was only happening certain times?
Yeah, I noticed it when like I wasn't doing leg workouts in the gym, but I was just like, I'm not really stopping that. I was, a little bit, I wasn't helping myself to some degree. And I saw so I also was like, that's it, I'm going private. And I found this amazing pelvic physiotherapist who was just like, yeah, you've got pudendal neuralgia. And she was amazing at giving me some breathing exercises and some stretching exercises, which was great, whilst I was then battling with waiting because so the gynecologist sent me to the pain specialist. The referral, I have no idea what happened, but it just took months and months and months and months. And it wasn't until I complained, then I all of a sudden got an appointment. And that doctor she said some interesting things, which I now look back and go, okay, you probably had a point, but the message wasn't delivered appropriately, I feel. And I just got dismissed. It was a phone consultation, which really annoyed me. And then at the end of it was like, oh, well, I'm leaving the hospital and you're just going to have to wait for the next consultant to come along.
It's really hard because we know, look, you went down the rabbit hole in the medical system. And this is where so many people are getting stuck, and then they're angry, and it doesn't
help your symptoms.
No, but still, go ahead. So you went down the rabbit hole, you're getting rejected, you're understanding something bigger is happening here. You obviously thought something's not permanent.
Yeah. I knew something else was going on here. And then I did finally see a pain specialist face to face. And she was brilliant. She was very brilliant. And she said to me, she prescribed some proper medication that actually that did work. But then she was talking about, nerve root block injections and blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, all along, I've said no. I've always said I wanted to treat this conservatively because I knew, this is just me personally and my personal choices. I should really stress that some people do need to go down the path of whatever they need to, but for me, it just didn't feel right for me. Right. And so I thought, okay. And then, so fast forward, so now we're about August of this year, and I was on this, I'm on one of the Pudendal Neuralgia pages, support pages, and this woman put a post, and so I'm reading it, and I'm reading all these posts and what people are doing and just observing, and this person put a post in about TMS and all this work that she had done, and that she'd been doing it for a year and her pain had reduced by about 90%. And I was like, it was like a light bulb moment of just like, finally, I feel like I've got some answers. This is something I could probably, because I'm all about, for me, working on mental health, and I've had a therapist for a really long time. I'm all about therapy. So I was just like, this kind of fits with my ideal way of treating things and going about things. And one of my other friends has previously talked about not TMS specifically, but like more of a mind-body thing that she does. And I was like, okay, so my friend is saying it. This person is saying it. Okay. And so I started doing my research. I started listening to a podcast and really deep diving into it. And so I got to about early August and I was like, okay, I've done enough research. They're saying, I think it's time for me to sit down and actually do some journaling. I can do this. And I started doing some journaling and my pain just, it wasn't like drastic, but I noticed some changes.
What do you think was going on there? You decided to do some journaling, which is not easy for anybody. All the years that I've been it's not easy but you decided to look at yourself and write, and kind of like, can you share what happened? I mean, not so much what you wrote about, but what do you think went on that your sensation shifted when you wrote some things down? What was going on?
I felt I could write whatever I wanted in a really safe space and there was no judgment. No one was going to read it. My husband was very like, I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to touch it. And I was like, please don't. And so it's like this safe, because I'm a handwriter. I'm not a typer. I appreciate that some people type. I like to handwrite. And then once I'm done with the book, I then throw it out. I'm like, I don't want to look at that again. I don't want to think about it. I wrote it down. I dealt with it. I'm moving on. So I think I was just able to be really, really honest about things that probably I'd been feeling and were bothering me, that I probably wasn't. I mean, I'm someone that does try to think about how I'm feeling about things.
Well, people that get TMS and psychophysiological disorders are deep, serious, smart people. They're all smart and sensitive. And this is to a fault. This is like a powerful channeling, like channel that power, that sensitivity, use it as your superpower. Many of us, where we hurt ourselves with it because we're so sensitive. So it's definitely something to pick up. So you knew yourself already. So you journaled, and you started to see changes in the quality of it, the quantity of it. What was going on?
Yeah, I just noticed it was calming down slowly. And then I met with you and I realized, remember we had that big realization that one thing I was doing though was I was bullying myself into feeling better and getting better. And
what do you mean bullying yourself?
Like, what's wrong with you? Why isn't this working? You're doing the work. It's not working.
You were like the big judge, like, why aren't you better? And you know better and you're smart. And what do you mean? Just because you feel bad about your dog? I mean, like, why would your pain? Like, so you're sad. So that kind of like, you really were.
And I'm ticking all the boxes. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing because I'm a perfectionist and I'm also, straight A student, and I'm doing all the things that I'm reading that I should be doing.
Boring to get straight A's. How boring. So we met, and then we started
to taught me to just let it go. Just let it go. Just be kind to yourself. Be kind. And
why is it hard? Let's talk about this, because there's some people listening, and it's like, of course I can be kind to me. Like, it's easy.
I'm not very good at that. No, I'm not very good at that.
No, and none of us, I mean, I remember the first year Rose and I were doing the show together. We had on this amazing doctor of psychology, somebody who taught her and her work in the ISTDP world. And I said to the woman, why is it so difficult for people to be kind to one another? And why didn't we learn that? And some of us walk away not learning that. We're in survival mode, or some of us had to give up our authenticity to get any love. So we haven't learned it. And I'm like, well, so how do we learn that new skill? And she was so simplistic. I questioned her again. She said, how do you treat a puppy or a child. And then right away, so many people figured out, well, oh, I treat many people compassionate and loving and kindly. I don't treat myself. So what do you think goes on with that? Like, why are we so good at doing it for others, but not ourselves? What do you think about that?
I have no idea. I don't know. I think because I just have, my husband tells me all the time, you have such high standards of yourself. You know, like no one is sitting there, standing there telling you that that's what they expect from you. Like, think about it. You know, no one's putting that pressure on you. You're putting that pressure on you because I'm a perfectionist. And everything has to
okay, and a perfectionist wants control, wants things to go a certain way, which sounds like a characteristic of the majority of people in the world. But so somehow it was not even an option for you to have nothing but like perfect. Like that's just it. Like there's no option. And you were able to do it in school. You're able to get straight A's. It was like not even probably like, you know, easy for you, you know. And so part of it was this, that's what happened. Like you were naturally smart and assertive in a sense. And then there's something happens you can't ace. You can't get an A on this. You couldn't get like, you know, you couldn't figure it out. And so that's probably what happens. Like this was the first time something came across you that you couldn't figure out. So your body goes into a cycle. So talk a little bit about that. So we discovered that you were abusing yourself emotionally. And that, then how did you figure that out? Because you're able to fold into that pretty well. You're able to, not that you, we can't just love ourselves, but like, what did you think? Like, how did you stop beating yourself up? How did you start witnessing that you were beating yourself up?
I was beating myself, and I was just listening to, okay, so then I changed the way in which I did my journaling. I was like, okay, what am I feeling today? And I could be as ugly or as truthful as I wanted to be. And then I would say, okay, but what are we going to do about that? And I just say to myself, it's okay. It's okay to feel that way. It's okay to have those feelings.
So you were validating, even if you were bullying yourself, you were validating yourself.
Yeah, and being like, it's okay to feel this way. Any normal person in that situation would probably feel the same way. It's normal. And then just slowly, you'd also give me some tips on some words to use. And I was like, yeah, I like those because I do got this. I am fine. I am safe.
Yeah. I think the threat safety, I think what you realized, tell me if this is correct, that when you were having sensations, you understood that your body was experiencing a threat and that it's not like you can get rid of the threat. We have to find a way, a language to basically teach ourselves that there is no threat. And a lot of things I learned was that we can't just take away the threat or accept the threat. We need to respond to the threat. And then we did some pain reprocessing therapy where I would leave you messages, you know, on your WhatsApp about that there's no danger, no fire, there's no lion coming to get you. So what did you feel? Did you feel, what was the threat? It was you, I guess.
Yeah, it was me. It was me. Totally me. And you know, other things that have popped up in the past, you know, had bullying at work. You know, being a lawyer is not easy. I always tell junior lawyers around me, like, this is a tough gig. You know, no, unless you're in it, no one really understands what it's like. It is really, really tough. I probably grew up in a household where feelings weren't really talked about, or so I guess I grew up kind of not really speaking about how I felt. So I'm kind of like repressing all my feelings.
Yeah.
And then it was like the pain was forcing me to feel my feelings and to write it down and say it out, like in a sense, say it,
right,
so that it's out there. It's out of my body. It's out of my mind. It's on the paper.
So it's like you had a relationship with yourself that kind of worked growing up, kind of worked in school,
then
getting a degree, being a professional, getting married to your soulmate, you know, moving to another country after like lockdown. I mean, like you're pretty functioning. So you were, but the whole time there was this sort of pending relationship with your feelings, or what we call like your unconscious mind and your conscious mind, were kind of in conflict, and you were kind of getting away with it.
I was, because I feel like all of that up until after lockdown is probably when up until I was just kind of like going through the motions, right? You're right. Like you finish your degree and then you start your job and then you like look to get promoted and you look for opportunities and you're just kind of pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And then all of a sudden you're in lockdown and you can't, all of your choices are being like you're forced into this situation and you're just coping in that situation. So it was like kind of like I was just coping all along. And then I coped to get me to the UK, and I'm here. And then it was just like, okay. It was like my body was like, okay, we're done.
Isn't that interesting? That's why people say, like, why didn't it happen before? Like, why didn't it start at childhood, or why didn't it start in law school? It's like somehow the body is protecting us and really doing its job, because that's the message we're giving it. At some point, thank God. I mean, thank God for the symptom.
Like, as much as it has been hell, like it's been really challenging, and I really feel for anyone who suffers with chronic pain, because what it does to your mental health is challenging. And I'm putting that very politely. It's bullshit, really. And
say it like it is. So, in my studio, you can say it like it is, Melissa. Don't hold back here. Don't hold back here.
You know, so I can't remember what I was saying, but you know, yeah, it's chronic pain. It's hard.
You were talking about the severity and how, like, you suffered. I mean, you struggled and
really,
suffered.
really struggled. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. If I feel like I'm in recovery mode, I still have flare-ups. And the first time I had one, I panicked. My brain just was like, oh my God, because you get this. I had about a month of like no pain, and I was doing all of the things that I probably was doing pre all of this. I was like, oh my God, I've got my life back. I was happy. And then the flare up came and I was just like, oh my God. You go back and you're like, but I just had all this like freedom in a sense. It was awful.
I remember talking to you about extinction bursts, because you were like so happy, but I think you got it. You didn't fall. You fell and get up and fall and get up. You figured it out. Okay, my body created this, my body can heal it. And this is the belief, this is the hope. This is why, you know, there are so many people struggling, because they're in the cycle. So when the flare happened, talk to us about how you were able to take yourself out of it and trust this process.
Well, I panicked. I'm not gonna lie, I panicked and was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
That's pretty human of you. Go ahead.
Yeah, which is very natural for me. This isn't making any sense. Blah, blah, blah. I really was stressed, and it forced me to just sit down, and I was like, okay, what's gone on in this last week or whatever have you that caused it? And it was like, I'd spoken to you like a bit of a process of elimination, but also I think there needed to be an element that you reminded me of like, maybe there isn't an answer and this just happens. And I just need to accept it. Yeah. And I just kept telling myself, I think why I was so scared was that prior to starting all this TMS work, I'd had a really bad flare-up of about 7. So I did get some sort over the course of the last year. I have had a few times where it's been okay. But leading up to starting the TMS work, 7 weeks, it was a 7-week flare-up. And I was getting like even more different symptoms than just pudendal neuralgia. I was getting like pins and needles going down my legs and in my feet, and you're just like, what is going on? And it was every day. So when this flare up happened, I panicked a little bit, and I was like, oh my God, I can't do 7 weeks. Like, that was so bad. And then I was like, it's fine. You know what? Whatever comes my way, comes my way. I'll just take it day by day. I'm just going to wake up in the morning, and I'm just going to keep doing my stuff. And I'm just going to keep doing my journaling. I do a meditation. I found a different type of meditation, and I do that before I go to sleep, which has helped, because I have always been an insomnia sufferer, not consistently. Like, as time has gone on, it's gotten better and better and better. But it's like really helped. The quality of my sleep has been a lot better.
Wow.
So it was just like, just whatever comes my way, I'm just going to accept it. I'm just gotta. It's not been easy. Don't get me wrong. I don't just go, oh well, you know, it is what it is.
People, everybody goes into it with the intellectual, like, I can accept that I can do this, and then, but you don't do that on a yoga mat, you know, or at a cocktail party. You have, it's almost like you've got, you know, the pain has to, like, you don't need pain to heal. Like somebody, like some doctor, some was a TMS therapist said to one of my clients, well, I can't help you because there's no pain. Like, no, you don't need the pain to heal, but you need to know that you get triggered.
Yes.
This is the thing. You get triggered, you would get triggered, and that if you could be with your feelings, the pain won't have to come. But then a lot of us can't deal with our feelings and the anxiety. So let's talk about how you were dealing with your intensity and with your perfectionist and with your impatience and with your like fear and with your like anger. Like, how did you come to terms with that? Because that's the next stage. You know, how you unlearned your pain, but then you had to unlearn your anxiety. Tell us how you did that, because you did it really. And you're in the process of doing that. You're working on that.
I'm working on it, just journaling and just thinking about it, and okay, how do I feel? Why do I feel? And just telling myself it's okay. It's okay. Just really validating my feelings, but also noticing when it's there. If it's like really intensified, okay, what's happening? Because I remember that time I was telling you. So I had this. It was a Friday, and I had this email come into my inbox, and I was like working, and it freaked me out. The subject of the email, and I was panicking, and then I felt this sharp pain, and I was like, it was like it kind of poked me on the back. I was like, hi, excuse me, you're anxious right now? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really anxious right now. And then I was like, took a step back, walked away from my computer, and I was like, I can handle this.
Wow.
Because I've got the tools to handle it. I'm going to go away, and I'm going to sit down, I'm going to breathe. I'm just going to
I remember you walked out of the office and went to the bathroom.
Yeah. And I just sat there and just breathed.
Get some downtime. I want to I want you to continue this, because it's two really big points I want the listeners to know. That number one, you validated yourself. It's almost like you reparented yourself. You gave you maybe what you didn't get. Who knows? You know, you didn't get when you were a child, but you validated and spoke to yourself. That's safety threat. The second thing you did was you knew yourself enough to understand there was some feeling, and it didn't matter that you might not know, like there was a clear trigger here, but like what you're saying before, like we don't always have to, I always say, like, what's the message and what's the feeling behind it? But no judgment if there's no message. Your body's telling you, the pain is telling you, because the pain isn't coming from anything physical. It's coming from the brain causing the pain. It's not even like you had an injury or some failed surgery that we know, like, or some, back, or car accident. You just developed, psychosomatic pain because you're a human being. And so and
I'm a sensitive human being. I feel things.
Sensitive and strong.
So sensitive.
So to talk more about how you were able to shift from kind of like Miss Perfectionist, which you still are, into a little bit more sensitive, caring, validating. What's going on with, like, what gave you the patience to stop and be the curiosity, which Rose would call it, to stop and talk to yourself? What allowed you to do that?
I think I also just rationalize with myself and be like, okay, so in that moment, you're feeling really anxious. What's the worst thing that could happen to you? That. So what? Okay. What's the best thing that could happen? What's the middle ground? I just really rationalized with myself.
You trusted that no matter what happened,
I could handle it. I could handle it. I told myself that you've got this. I've got your back. Like, to my little inner child, you've got this. I've got you. We can do this.
Wow. So just number one, the journaling for you was key.
Really, really helpful.
To the mindfulness and the meditation helped you sleep. And
which is not something that I'm very good at, I must say. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm not, and everyone has always, especially with insomnia, everyone's always like to me, oh, you should try meditation. And it's just like, yes, but I feel like unless you can hear about things, but until you're ready to do it, it's just like therapy, right? Like someone can say to you, oh, you probably should go to therapy, but unless you really want to and you want to do the work, it's not going to work for you.
So it's almost like you showed up for yourself.
I was ready.
You knew it was going to be uncomfortable. You knew that, people do. I just want to read a book and drink some tea and go to bed. I don't really want to meditate. Like you got it. And I think also what I noticed about you is that you became just more mindful through the day, just like what you did with that email. And anybody that can just notice their triggers and stop and respond before they react, it's almost like half the job is done.
Yeah, agreed. And so, yeah, I do you taught me to just check in with myself throughout the day. So I do I might be working on something really intense and walk away and, go to the kitchen to get a cup of tea or something. And I'm like, okay, how am I feeling? Am I okay? Yes, I'm okay. I'm feeling a bit anxious right now. Okay, that's fine. We know why we're anxious. We'll be, we can, at lunchtime, we can sit down and watch a bit of trashy TV and our mind will go off it. And, or, if you're really that worried, we can always, talk to my boss or, talk to my husband. He calls me every day at lunchtime and I can rant to him and it'll all be fine, like.
Yeah, it is important to have a supportive, spouse or parent or, good friend, because a lot of people I talk to, their spouses or their friend is like, nah, it's okay. It's all in your head. It's okay. You can do this. Like, it's more like they're telling you rather than like holding a space for you to vent. And so I think that's really important too. And honestly, the bottom line is we have to be that for ourselves. So you became a friend to yourself. Can you talk a little bit about that? How that
100%. I feel like I have a better relationship with myself now. I think I was very critical of myself. I still sometimes am, don't get me wrong. Sometimes very, as I say, hold myself to a higher standard.
Well,
my husband makes me check myself in.
Guess what? We can do that. We can hold ourselves. We can be a perfectionist. We can be a do-gooder. We can be a people pleaser. We can be anxious. We can be, like at fifth gear. We don't have to have physical pain.
Yeah.
You got to know yourself and you weren't.
And started turning up for myself, right? Turning up for myself and listening more to myself.
And you didn't.
And writing it down.
And you didn't. And you might not have liked that this is the thing. This is where the ego comes in and like, smart and people who live on fifth gear, like you're this sort of high energy. Like
I do really well in high stress. Like I'm at my best when I'm in high stress.
Wow. See, that's it. And then people are like, well, can I do well at high stress anymore? No, it's just this awareness that you're in high stress. So there's the high stress, there's your symptoms, there's your personality, there's your anxiety, there's you were able to figure it out, and understand.
Getting to the pain. And so I think also, being in COVID and lockdown also kind of taught me that I don't want to be a partner of a law firm and have all this extra stress. And so I think that was like the starting point. And then the pain was like, this sounds a bit odd, but it's kind of like the pain was like, okay, you've made that realization. That's one big thing off our plate. Now I'm going to make you deal with the rest of the stuff that you have not been dealing with or feeling or whatever the case may be. And I think that's
so. Melissa, what do I
hate the pain? It's taught me some things.
Right. So I say this to people, maybe not so when they're not ready, but I remember learning, when you learn, when you read the Bible or the Torah and you learn like spiritual health, you learn that there's like a gift to some pain. There's a gift in suffering. Something good will come out of it. Viktor Frankl's Search for Man, like the meaning of the Holocaust, and like when something happens, when we break up and we'll be better off for it, like to understand the bigger picture, to understand that we are, responsible for our response. So This is biggie for you. Like, and not everybody wants to hear that, even though it's empowering that they're a hero and that they overcame this. They overcame adversity. I mean, all these people in these pain pages, they're strong people, and they're always doing this cheerleader, like, you know, like MS day and pain day and arthritis day, and they're wearing t-shirts and, you know, getting tattoos, and, you know, and I remember meeting a guy, he had a tattoo. I forget the tattoo, but he was very pissed at me because I took the picture off of Facebook and he got upset with me. But the tattoo was, he didn't really, was something about like, oh, I am the pain, or pain forever. And I had to talk with him. He was an Israeli, and I had to talk with him because I really wanted to try to break through. And I said, do you feel like your body is against you and you're a victim? He said, absolutely. And so there, and he didn't want to go there. He didn't want to, he was like, this was where he was comfortable. Like, it's empowering me to be in this agreement that my body is against me. Like, it was there's no option. I felt terrible because it wasn't like I wanted to be the hero for him. I wanted him to be like, yeah, I'm not a victim, but like for him, his body was against him. So I'm bringing that up because you found some meaning and purpose in all the levels of pain, and every flare up, you know what's going on. How did you figure that out, that there was some bigger picture here? Because not everybody's willing to do that. And it can be a breakthrough, an absolute breakthrough for people to get that.
I just had a feeling that I was just like, the medical model has only taken me so far, and I'm only prepared to do so much. I'm not prepared to go down these rabbit holes. Just me personally, I appreciate for some people that they feel like they need to, and it works for them or whatever.
You want to get medicine, it should work. You want to get it,
yeah,
it should work.
And that's why I was getting so frustrated with it too, though. It was just like, well, this is just doesn't make any sense, and I wasn't getting any answers as to why it all wasn't making sense. I was so confused. And it wasn't until it was just like, oh my God, I'm causing the pain. Like, my emotions are causing the pain. That's the problem. Because then when I look back at it now, I'm like, there was no injury. My tests were all clear. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but Melissa, how does somebody take that kind of responsibility? Because it's almost like some people, they feel like it's like, that's key. It's key that you just said, I'm responsible. I'm in charge here. Like, you took your ego and your perfectionist and you channeled it to serve you. And that's another big key. Like, these people, I mean, like, not these people, but like, if we can understand it's back to our relationship with ourselves. So you were able to channel that power and be responsible. And how did that feel for you to be responsible? Because you didn't blame yourself. You were like, I'm in control here.
It was more of like, I'm not going to, I'm going to find the answer here. There is something, it's just something I just have to keep looking, and it will come to me when it's meant to. And I just genuinely feel like it all came at the right time. I am a big believer in that things happen when they're meant to happen for whatever reason that is. Like, I am a big believer in that.
Like, there's no coincidence.
Yeah, I just think that everyone, things happen for certain reasons when they happen.
That's a realist. Yeah. So you were in reality. You started to take responsibility. Talk a little bit more about like the next flare up that happened. Then what happened? Because flare ups happen for you. I've seen you, like, you were able to like ride that wave.
Yep. So then the next one was literally on Sunday this week, Sunday, Monday, and I am feeling much better now. But it was just like that one was only 2 days, and I was like, okay, that's fine. I was like, okay, because I was like, here we go.
So you always understand what the pain is saying, or at least why it's there, and that you're safe.
Yes. Yeah. I was a bit frustrated on Sunday. It was really quite funny because my husband was like, go do your journaling. And then you can come back to me and talk to me about why it's bothering you. And I was like, okay.
It's like the medicine. It's like the medicine.
Think about it. Go take your Panadol, and then we'll talk about it.
No side effects. No side effects.
No gabapentin.
So for journaling for you is a key.
It's important, yeah. And go to therapy. I go to therapy. I've been in therapy for quite some time. I'm a big advocate for it. I think anyone, yeah, I mean, you have to want to do it. You know, any high performing professional should be doing it.
You weren't scared to face your demons.
Exactly. And I have a therapist who I just trust. I've seen her for so long. She knows me. So I'll say something to her and she'll be like, yeah, do you remember this? And I was like, oh, that's how it's all linked. So I think I'm doing a lot of the work myself in my journaling. And then I'm just kind of topping it up, I guess, with the therapy.
Amazing.
And the meditation and yoga. I started doing a bit of yoga as well. Because the other thing I was really frustrated with, the doctors were all like, oh, you need to stop exercising. You stop exercising. And I was just like, no.
Yeah.
For me, I exercise for my mental health.
Yeah.
Not like, yeah, for the physical side, whatever, to make sure I'm fit and healthy and I don't end up with, you know, diabetes or heart problems or whatever. But ultimately, I'm doing the exercise for my mental health. So you're telling me to take away my only, before I knew about TMS, like you're telling me I have to now take away my coping mechanism?
Yeah.
No. So I guess I've been a rebel the entire time.
Okay. Let's thank mom and dad for that.
Yeah.
Let's remember that. So you were a bit like I don't know, like you understood, because I don't think anyone should stop exercising, even if it hurts it. You're not hurting your pelvis. The muscles are tight. I mean, the muscles are very, 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 very tight, and they need loosening up, and they need blood and oxygen.
Yeah.
So what would you say? There's some listeners, and if anybody out there wants to ask Melissa any questions, like, even though you're a lawyer, you could be a great therapist. I mean, you pretty much doctored yourself with a little bit of,
I told you this. I told you if I had my time over again, I'm not saying that, I don't love being a lawyer, but if I had my time over again, I totally would have been a doctor and something in female health. So,
wow.
But anyways, it's too late. It's too long and too hard to get there. But anyway.
So what would you suggest? What would you suggest to some of the listeners? Because I'm going to hopefully put this on the Pelvic show, the Pelvic Facebook page. I really want people. There are so many people struggling, and there are people who also are doing the journaling and are meditating, and and they're not getting out of the symptoms. So, what do you think's going on for them?
I'm not too sure, but I would just say, like, be patient. It will come eventually. Keep trying. You're doing all the right things. Just keep trying. Wow. That's all just keep going. That's all I would say.
Like, trust.
You'll get that. You trust the system, and you have to also. I think you have to believe in it, though.
Yeah.
You have to believe, like therapy, right? You have to want to be there for it to work. Same thing. You have to believe in the mind-body system for this to work.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I sometimes, have my moments of skepticism. I'm not saying I'm perfect and that I walk around being like, I've got all the answers.
Yeah. No, and this is a biggie. This is a biggie with the mind-body world. And when you've been down the medical model, because look, I learned this when I took the course with Alan Gordon's office, Behavior Processing Therapy, that, pain, it's counterintuitive, because pain means something's wrong.
Yeah.
But neuroplastic, so it's like, wait a minute, but neuroplastic pain is the body, there might have been something wrong. You had inflammation in your pelvis from some UTIs or from stress, but the chronicity of it is not normal. And so why does the body keep going there to that place? I mean, thank God you had no sexual trauma, nothing, no accident.
So really need to stress that nothing
right there. And that could be, we could look into Louise Hay and understand what was going on. I mean, like, my yoga teacher says that the hips are the junk drawer of your life and what's going on in the pelvis. So forget that, because there are certain reasons why we have it in certain areas. Sometimes there's an old accident, but the brain is still this. Now we're talking about central sensitization. The brain is still thinking there's a trauma there. The brain is still thinking, there's inflammation there. Or the brain is creating inflammation from anxiety, and it's going to the place where there was an old UTI or something, you know. So it's interesting that you accepted the fact that you were sensitive, super sensitive. You know, you understood, you're able to sit back and witness and observe what's going on. And there's so much freedom in that, Melissa, and so much ability to heal yourself in just observing and watching and being a witness to your behavior and to your reaction, and then to respond to that.
Yeah. And I do feel a bit more at peace at them. I mean, I don't profess to be completely at peace, and you know, some Buddha, but you know, like I feel
you're human. Like, you're not God, you're human. I mean, like, we're not looking here for peace and calm. We're looking for balance.
Maybe that's the better word. Then I feel a bit more balanced, a bit more calm about it all, and that I can, most of the time, you know, 98% of the time, manage what's happening.
So what else besides impatience would you recommend to people if they were on their journey? And even if it's a long journey that they're on, this to me is a brain game. It's about your brain and body. It's about your immune system and your brain. It's about, you know, the brain is a piece of flesh, and we can change it. You literally are in the process of molding your brain. You've changed the pathway. You've changed the, you know, like, freak out, something's wrong with me pathway, to like, okay, I don't like this pain. I want it to go away. But I figured, like, you started this language with yourself. So I think to be able to speak to oneself, to have a new language, to be able to be patient, to be able to respond and not react.
Yeah.
What else? What did we miss here? What else?
I mean, for me, it was really helpful to have a pain coach, to have you in my life. I think that really just kind of like was the icing on the cake, because I was already doing all the right things and was getting there slowly, but it just kind of like pushed me over the edge a little bit towards getting more on my way, I think.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, for the right person at the right time.
Exactly.
It's so important. And I know people will go to different coaches and then be like frustrated because it didn't work. And I always say, well, you weren't ready. Like, you know, like it's about timing. It's about the right coach. I mean, the right interaction, the right relationship. I think it's important to find the right person who you feel the most safe. I mean, you immediately, I mean, I don't know you from a hole in the wall. I mean, you're from Australia, you're from down there, I'm from up here. You know, like I think you knew yourself enough. When we had that first consult, you were like, I'm ready. And I think part of it is a willingness to like people like, I want to get better. I want, say
you have to reflect, like you have to look deep, and you have to really reflect, I think, and think about what's going on in my life. Like, why am I feeling this way? And the other thing I really learned from you was, like, there's no rules around the journaling either. Just write it down. Just write down what you're feeling. And that's really, because it's, some stuff comes out that you're like, oh yeah, I put that all together. Like, yeah.
And can I ask you, was there part of you that you discovered about yourself that you really didn't like and you really had to accept, or did you change certain things about yourself? Because you don't, you know, I'm curious about you, and I know you're still in your recovery and you're still learning. I mean,
yeah, so I feel like I'm still learning, but I mean, I don't like the fact that I treat myself that way, but then I'm so compassionate with others. You know, I show all this love and affection and time and patience with my husband, and I respond to his needs, and I'm supportive to him, but yet I can't do that for myself.
What is that?
And so it's just like, okay, I need to do it for me, for both of us, right? So I can be better in myself, but also a better wife and friends and whatever have you.
Yeah. No, it's important. Look, you know, it's ideal to have, you know, a supportive partner and parents and bosses and all, but ultimately it just comes down to yourself. And that's kind of where this problem started and where the solution is. And wow, it's you know, the first show we had, Rose and I, was right during lockdown. It was the March of like COVID. And we had this woman, our first we had Michael Galinsky, and then the next week we had this woman, Laura, she was a math teacher and she became a coach because her experience was so profound. She went to 25 doctors. She had pelvic problems. She had like horrible, like really pelvic stuff, like it affected her whole ability to feel pleasure. It was really like the whole scope of the pelvis, and nothing happened to her. No, something sexual. She had great parents, but she went down a real rabbit hole. 25, she had surgery, and her daughter at some point said to her mom, "What about meditation?" And she was like, "Bullshit." And then she thought, like, what the heck? What the heck? She laid down. She laid down, and this is like, I think my number two, the show. We have like we have, you know, YouTube. It's number 2. People can look at it with Laura. I'm blanking on her last name. She lay down with this woman, and she began to like let go and get into the meditation and the mindfulness, which is hard for all of us to watch our feelings, observe our feelings, trust. You know, it's almost like letting go. It's that like control, like we're scared, like I don't want to go to that place, but it's a very powerful process, as you know. She lay down with this woman. This woman helped her get into like a little bit of state of meditation, and her pain went away. And for that moment, and she thought, oh my Lord, this is emotional. This is psychological. There's a connection. Yes, thank you, Rosa. Haraka. Yeah, she's living, I think, in New Jersey. I remember. And Laura said, there's a connection. Now Laura became a coach. She stopped doing, I think, math, and she became a coach. And she's doing a lot of like meditation and maybe hypnotherapy, but different things than maybe what I'm doing. But she's a wonderful coach working with people. And that for her, I mean, 25 doctors.
That's crazy.
And yeah.
The other thing too, I just thought about.
Thank you, Rosa. Thank you so much, Rosa dear.
Is to try to not have any expectations about it. You know, like, wow. I think, you know, for instance, you know, the doctors might say to you, okay, you're going to be on this pain medication for 6 months and then you're going to be all good. I just think that with this process, you can't, sorry, a bit of cat hair, you can't have any expectations or a timeline for when.
Oh, well, that's hot. What do you mean? What do you mean? I want the pain gone. I want the pain gone now. In fact, I want it gone yesterday.
Which was something.
What do you mean?
That was really hard for me because, you know, like if you're doing something, you expect a result and you expect a timeline for when it's. And the other thing I had to also try to practice was not focusing on it and going, okay. Because I've got the pain doctors telling me, oh, you need to do a pain journal. You need to write it down every day. So it's like I'm kind of giving the pain a bit of a voice. I'm feeding into it and letting it control me instead of like addressing it.
Melissa, so smart. And Dr. Hanscom always says, don't talk about your symptoms with anybody but your therapist. And again, on this mind-body syndrome, which is one of the big pages these two guys started, you know, Eddie and Brad, and they're always getting on people for talking about symptoms. And part of it is like, let's talk about it, work it out, get some solution, but to harbor on it. And then the PRT and the somatic tracking is about kind of focusing on it in order to become friends with it. So for that purpose, yes, let's become friends with it, but like, not like, what's wrong with you? Go away. Or like, I'm frustrated, but I understand you. Like, see, there's a thin line there, and people have to understand this process. And this is where the TMS work comes in handy. So great point you made. Great point. Don't focus on it or understand it. And the first thing you said when
no expectations about recovery or flare-ups. Just do your best to just roll with it, for lack of a better word.
Like Gordon talks about in independent outcome. Like, not like I'm having a bad day. I'm having a day. Like, what kind of day did you have? Like, well, it's a day where I was challenged by some symptoms, and I got to, like, he's big on, like, don't measure your days according to your pain.
Yeah.
This is a biggie.
Agreed.
This is a real biggie. So Rosa,
which takes practice.
That
takes practice, though. It doesn't you don't start this and the next day like I didn't. It takes practice.
Is practice, and you were committed to the practice. And this is where we're not blaming anybody. I mean, follow through is a really big thing.
Yeah,
it's a really big thing, and like you said, no expectations. Like, I like to call it a journey.
Yeah.
More than, it's not a cure, it's a journey. And if people can accept that, then they're like, I got this.
Yeah, and for me, it was just like, I didn't want to have a nerve root block injection. I don't want to consider surgery. So none of those things felt like an option for me. So it was like, this is, at the moment, the best option for me.
Wow.
And I have to try. I owe it to myself to try.
Yeah, and you also, this is part of the placebo work that I love to I'd love to talk about and share. It's, for you didn't negotiate. Like I say to people, don't negotiate with the pain. This is it. Success is inevitable. You will heal. Because people, even with some structural situations or MS or cancer, I mean, they can still heal and live a quality life. You can even live with this. See, once you begin to live with this sensation, it goes away. See, that's a trick. And that's the placebo, and that's the law of attraction, and that's the visualizing that this pain isn't running my life. I'm friends with this. Like, I was like, go have coffee with your sensations. This is
actually,
because there's no conflict. There's no conflict now. Now there's a love affair.
You actually taught me that, and I sometimes do visualize it. It's kind of like I'm sitting in an office, and I've got my fear and my anger and my sadness, and they're all standing out the office door, and they're like knocking on the door, and they're like, "Can we come in and have a conversation?" And so, like, I visualize them kind of sitting there. They're like these things without heads, like just kind of they're sitting at the table, and they're like,
shame,
"Oh, yeah."
And the players, mom, dad, my husband, my ex-boss, my poor, it's like
I'm sitting there and I'm like, I have to sit there and I have to listen to them. It's kind of like a boss, like taking my note, and I've got my file notepad and I'm taking notes. I'm like, okay, I hear you, I see you. Okay, I will deal with you. Wow. It's kind of like a deli counter, like take a ticket.
Wow,
line up.
Yeah, this was we're going to round out a little bit. There's some listeners out there that want to ask Melissa or myself any questions, please do. But this was really full of take-home tools, I like to call it, full of insights. And you kept it like really objective. You didn't okay, I journaled and then I did some meditation and like I didn't, these are, because what these are doing are helping you calm your brain. They're helping you respond rather than react. They're helping you accept your reality. You weren't broken.
No. I wouldn't say I was broken. I would say I was suffering. I suffered. But came out the other end.
Yeah. And so I think even if you have sensations off and on the rest of your life, you're always going to know what they are, because what are the sensations? Reflection of our anxiety, our deep repressed feelings. It almost sounds new age when I say it, but when we repress feelings, and this is where, if there are people listening from any of the more medical pelvic pages, the repressed feelings are being perceived by the brain as some kind of threat. So that's the science. Okay. And so Rosa, thank you for speaking up. I'm so happy to interact. So you chose mind body tools which resonate with you. Do not feel like a chore, which I think is important. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. I've kind of like incorporated it into my day. So it just, because it's not like I sit there and go, oh my God, I have to journal and I have to do all these things. It's just kind of like, yeah, I agree. It's not a chore. It's just,
and it becomes your toolbox. I mean, why can't journaling be like your medication? Yeah. Look, I'm not against taking Advil, taking pills. You know, you want to go to chemo for your cancer, God forbid, then go. But you're going to have to deal with yourself. You're going to have to deal with yourself, right, Rosa? Exactly. And it's not easy. I'm 66. I'm journaling. I'm meditating. It's not easy to visit yourself, but it's something that it's a process, and sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's not. But you know what? I learned that if you're feeling some resistance, and I wonder if you agree with me, Rosa, if you're feeling some resistance, that's the place you have to go. Reach into the resistance. You know, you feel like the uncomfortability. Well, that's where you're going to grow.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered. And I'm like, no, just do it. And then you do it. And it's like, oh, all this stuff comes out. I'm like, oh, okay.
I mean, nicely, but just do it. Like, how smart is that? I mean, like, come on. Like, and we're all very much into our head, where it's very safe to be in our head.
Yeah.
So we're talking about coming out of your head into your heart. That's what Rose would say. Walk the path from your head to your heart. And you know what? It's not a scary thing. You know, when I was in therapy, I had to go rescue my little girl, you know, she was a bit traumatized, and I had to rescue her. It's like, it was uncomfortable. But you know what? Who wouldn't want to rescue a sad little child? Who wouldn't want to treat yourself like that? So we're all reparenting ourselves. I'm a grandparent. We all did the best we could. We are not here. We're not the blame. We're not here to blame. We're blaming no one. Mom, Dad, we're not blaming you. Like, sometimes I'd have a guest and the parent would come on the show and it'd be like, hi, come into the studio. We're not blaming you. We're here to take responsibility and say you did the best you can. To all the parents out there, you're doing the best you can. We're not, you know, we're not black and white human beings. We're feeling, loving people, and all parents do the best we can. And when we're doing this work, like Rosa, we're doing the best we can. And that's the most important thing, to have your back, to cheerlead for yourself, to love yourself, to be friends with yourself. I mean, we can take care of ourselves physically and look good, but like, what about that soul connection? What about the heart? Can you chat about that a little bit? How did you must have liked yourself, but then you had to really know yourself, Melissa.
Yeah, I like to tell myself that I'm perfectly imperfect. All the time. I'm perfectly imperfect. And the other one I'd tell myself is just doing the best I can. That's all that is being anyone.
Isn't everybody doing the best they can? That's where we can have patience, even for the people that trigger us. Most people, you know, set aside certain things. We have to have, you know, an objectivity that people are ultimately doing the best we can. And if we're angry or we're pissed, it's about us.
Yeah.
It's about us.
You taught me that, and you also taught me to not give power to that. Being angry is just giving that power.
So important. So thank you for sharing, Rosa, on the show. We really love when you come live, and it's not always the best timing for everybody. I try to go nighttime in America, but then it's early morning for me. So it's nice to be nighttime in England, nighttime in Israel, nighttime in Europe. It is afternoon in New York and afternoon in California. This will be up on the YouTube channel. I think it's like 175 or something. We've been going pretty much every week, and I am one grateful human being. If anybody has any questions, I can send them to Melissa. I'm sure Melissa would love to chat with you. And, you know, if anybody wants to talk to Melissa, we can get permission and she can, you know, email you. I mean, she has her own experience, her own story, but it's nice to find someone that's in recovery and that's trusting this process and seeing it worked and did go to the doctors and did take medication, and, you know, it really is. So Rosa says, thank you.
Well, thanks, Rosa.
We are grateful. And I am so grateful because I love I like when people come on and talk about their stories, but not everybody's comfortable. And Melissa, you were very brave. And it wasn't so like you were, you know, it wasn't like, I mean, did I bribe you to come on? Maybe a little bit I bribed you. No, it's very important. This pelvic problems are big.
They're really big. And I'm really, you know, a bit frustrated also with the medical model around their dismissal of pelvic pain. And yeah, that's my 2 seconds.
We are here to we're here to integrate with the medical system. I would never tell anyone not to take their pain or get surgery. We're here to integrate, because if you're getting better and then not getting better, or there's like medically unexplained symptoms, the mind-body component can help you, can help the Advil work, can help the surgery work. This is not about one or the other. It's about integrating the two systems. And that's what's so beautiful about so many of the doctors that we've had on the show, and how we, you know, I want you to get a medical exam. I want you to rule out anything, but surely this work can help you heal more effectively. And for some people who aren't getting help in the medical system, this is the answer. And you can do it for free. I mean, you don't need me. You can do it for free. There's lots of, I mean, we have the internet. We don't even need an encyclopedia anymore. We can do this. And there's an enormous amount of support. That's amazing about Facebook. But if you need a coach for a few times, you know, we can help you. I'm always like, my logo is the doctor in you, the therapist in you. You have to do this. And I think we can end this by saying, Melissa, you became a friend to yourself. You became you now doctor yourself. You don't even need me anymore. Talk about that for a minute. Say goodbye and talk about the doctor and therapist in you. And how you've been able to love and support yourself in this process.
100%. I mean, you know, you are a little bit of a security blanket, but, you know, I know that you're there if I need you. But I do feel like I can do this. I can do this. And I'm telling myself that I can do this and I will be better.
Wow. So important. You are better. You're healed.
Yes,
you're healed. And now occasionally you have some anxiety that you're learning to not stuff. You're a human being. I mean, you know, Michael Galinsky says we have this condition called being human. Oh my God. If we can just accept that. So you learned incredible balance. You are an absolute inspiration. I am in awe. You brought out the best in me. We made a great team. And I so appreciate you showing up here for me and giving me your night. Thank your hubby.
I will. And thank you. I'm very grateful for everything.
I really do love the internet for allowing us to meet and for this work to happen, because we've been Zooming and we've not met in person, but we're just around the corner from each other. You're in England and I'm here in this in the Middle East. And yet, thank you, Rosa. Thank you so much for participating. And anyone else that wants to, you can also talk to me on YouTube. I meet some great people on YouTube, and there'll be some people probably like giving me a thumbs up on YouTube when they hear this. It's been a fabulous hour, and I am just grateful to you and to God and to the Mind Body and to John Sarno and to Rita. Yay, Rita! Rita's always coming in. Rita healed herself from CRPS, like one of the most horrible neurological, pain conditions. And she taught we have a couple shows. And so there's like, the sky's the limit. Mm-hmm. So bring it on, universe, bring it on, Facebook, let's heal it. And Melissa, if I need your help, I'm calling on you. And you're saying, hubby, I'm meeting Doc. We're going to co-manage a few people. Like last week I had this guy on, this amazing guy. He's healed, like he wrote a book called Migraine Breakthrough. He's like in his 60s. He even did like some ecstasy. He did like some deep mushrooms. He does how to get to himself, and he said to me, Tovah, I cannot do this work. You're the doctor, but if somebody wants to talk to me, I'll come in the Zoom with you, And so I know that you would do that. I know that you would just pal for me and be my tutor, because some people, they want to talk to somebody that's gone through it.
Oh, I agree. I can definitely understand that. Yeah. Definitely.
So, and Gina, I know Gina struggles with, I'm really happy you're here. I know you struggle with this, Gina. You've been here before with other pelvic shows. And yeah, I'm sorry about the time. Yeah. But anyway, Gina, I think you're on that Facebook page, that Melissa. So you can talk to me. You have my email. I think you're on the YouTube. If you want to chat with Melissa, because I know you're sometimes suffering, dear. I'm happy that you came on, and don't worry, it'll be on YouTube probably tonight or tomorrow. So don't give up. Trust the process. Okay. Thank you, my dearest. Thank you, Melissa. All the best. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
1 second. Yeah.